Jake Morrison had been staring at the same star charts for 3 hours when the alarm started screaming. The bridge of the UES Horizon erupted into controlled chaos as his crew rushed to their stations. Outside the viewport, something massive was moving toward them through the darkness of space near Jupiter's orbit. "Report," Jake said, his voice steady despite the ice forming in his stomach. "Unknown object approaching from the outer system," Lieutenant Amy Foster called from the sensor. "Station." "It's huge, Commander. Bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake watched the main screen as the object resolved into something that made his breath catch. It was clearly artificial, covered in smooth surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols pulsed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Are they responding to our hails?" Jake asked. "No, sir," Communications Officer Lisa Parker replied, "but they're sending us something. It's not radio or laser. The computer can't identify the transmission method." "Put it through," Jake ordered. Knowing this moment would change everything, the bridge filled with a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It spoke perfect English, though something about the tone made Jake's skin crawl. "We are the Eternal Compact. We speak for the galaxy. Your species has been observed. You are a threat to galactic stability. You have 1 solar cycle to submit to our authority or face complete extinction. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in deadly silence. Jake stared at the alien vessel as it began to move away, disappearing into the darkness as suddenly as it had appeared, back on Earth. President Linda Carter stood before the largest gathering of world leaders in human history. The emergency session of the United Nations had been called within hours of the Horizon's report reaching Earth. Every nation, every leader, every voice that mattered was here. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Carter began, her voice carrying to every corner of the packed assembly hall. "We have received an ultimatum from representatives of something called the Eternal Compact. They claim to speak for the galaxy itself. They demand our immediate surrender." The hall erupted in angry voices and shouted questions. President Carter raised her hand for silence. "They tell us we are a threat to galactic stability. They tell U.S. we must kneel or die. They tell us we have no choice." She paused, looking directly into the cameras that would carry her words to every human on Earth. "I am here to tell them they are wrong. For all of human history, we have faced those who would make us kneel. We have faced tyrants and conquerors, bullies and oppressors. Some wore crowns, others wore uniforms, but they all had one thing in common. They believed that might makes right. They believed that fear was stronger than hope." The hall was completely silent now, every person hanging on her words. "Today, we face the greatest bully in the history of our species. They come not from across an ocean or beyond a mountain, but from the stars themselves. They bring technology we cannot match and numbers we cannot count. They expect us to surrender because we are small and they are large." President Carter's voice grew stronger with each word. "But they do not understand what it means to be human. They do not understand that we are the species that looked at the vast ocean and built ships to cross it. We are the species that looked at the sky and built machines to fly through it. We are the species that looked at the stars and built rockets to reach them. We are the species that has never, ever learned to kneel." The hall exploded in applause and cheers. President Carter waited for quiet to return. "I hereby declare that humanity rejects the ultimatum of the Eternal Compact. We will not submit, we will not surrender, we will not kneel. If they want this world, they will have to take it from us, and we will make them pay for every inch." Meanwhile, in a laboratory beneath the Pentagon, Dr. Alex Bennett was making a discovery that would change everything. The alien probe that had delivered the ultimatum had left behind trace particles when it departed. These particles were unlike anything in Earth's periodic table. "The readings are impossible," Dr. Bennett muttered to his assistant. "This material shouldn't exist according to our understanding of physics." But as he studied the particles more closely, something even stranger became apparent. When exposed to human neural tissue samples, the alien material reacted in ways that defied explanation. It was as if human brain patterns were somehow compatible with alien technology. "My God," Dr. Bennett whispered. "We're not just compatible with their technology. We're more compatible than they are." Across the globe, General Pete Harrison was already putting President Carter's words into action. Military bases worldwide buzzed with activity as humanity's greatest minds worked to turn the planet into a fortress. Every factory, every shipyard, every resource was being redirected toward one goal: survival. "They think we're primitive," General Harrison told his staff. "They think we'll break at the first sign of real opposition. They're about to learn that humans don't break. We bend, we adapt, we overcome." The first alien scout ships arrived at the edge of the solar system 3 days later. What they found was not a cowering species begging for mercy, but a civilization that had already begun fortifying every planet, moon, and asteroid they could reach. The long war had begun, and humanity was ready to fight. The first wave of alien ships arrived like a storm made of metal and death. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as thousands of enemy vessels poured into the solar system. Each one was larger than Earth's biggest battleship, and they moved with perfect coordination that spoke of millions of years of conquest. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan." She spoke into the comm system that connected her to every human vessel in the solar defense fleet. "Today we make our stand. Today we show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The alien fleet spread out in a formation that had conquered 1,000 worlds. They expected quick victory against these primitive humans who had barely learned to leave their home planet. They were about to learn their first lesson about humanity. The battle began when the aliens fired their first shots. Beams of energy that could melt mountains struck the human fleet, but the humans did not break. Instead, they did something the aliens had never seen before. They scattered in all directions, abandoning their neat formations to become individual hunters. "Break formation," Admiral Sullivan ordered. "Use the asteroids for cover. Make them work for every shot." The human ships dove into the asteroid belt, using the rocky debris as shields and weapons. Captain Steve Baker piloted his destroyer between spinning rocks the size of cities, firing at alien ships that were too large to follow him into the maze of stone and metal. "They're trying to herd us into open space," Baker reported over the comm. "They don't know how to fight in this kind of environment." He was right. The alien ships had been designed for battles in empty space, where their superior firepower and numbers could overwhelm any enemy. But the humans refused to fight that kind of battle. They turned the solar system itself into a weapon. On Mars, Marine Colonel Roy Thompson watched alien dropships descend through the red sky like falling stars. His forces were outnumbered 50-1, but he had something the aliens did not expect. He had 3 months to prepare, and he had learned from every human conflict in history. "Remember," he told his Marines as they took positions in the underground tunnels they had dug beneath the colony. "They've conquered 1,000 worlds, but they've never fought us. Show them what Marines can do." The alien ground forces landed, expecting to find cowering colonists. Instead, they found empty buildings and silent streets. When they moved forward to investigate, the real battle began. The humans struck from underground, from hidden positions, from places the aliens never thought to look. They used the red dust of Mars to hide their movements and the low gravity to leap between buildings like ghosts. Every street became a trap, every building a fortress. "They're not fighting like any species we've encountered," the alien commander reported to his superiors. "They refuse to engage in proper battle formation. They strike and disappear like shadows." Colonel Thompson smiled grimly as he listened to the intercepted communication. The aliens were learning that humans did not fight proper battles. They fought to win. In the asteroid belt, engineer Lisa Parker worked frantically to convert mining equipment into weapons. Her crews had been drilling rocks and moving mountains for decades. Now they turned those same skills against the invaders. "If they want to fight in space," she told her team, "we'll give them a space battle they'll never Forget. The mining ships began launching asteroids at the alien fleet using their cargo systems. Rocks the size of skyscrapers became missiles traveling at incredible speeds. The aliens found themselves dodging debris fields that appeared out of nowhere, their perfect formations broken by chunks of stone and metal. Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Ross made a discovery that changed everything. The alien prisoners taken during the first battles were not what they seemed. Deep scans revealed that their brains had been modified, their genetic code altered in ways that made them perfect servants. "They're not evil," she reported to the military command. "They're victims. Someone or something has been controlling them for so long they've forgotten what freedom feels like." This revelation spread through the human forces like wildfire. They were not just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting to free an entire galaxy from slavery. The battle for Luna became the turning point of the solar system's defense. The moon had been turned into a fortress, its surface covered with weapons and its interior filled with tunnels and bunkers. When the aliens attacked, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. The humans on Luna did not just defend their positions. They fought back with everything they had. They used the moon's low gravity to their advantage, bouncing weapons and soldiers around in ways that confused the alien forces. They turned the lunar landscape itself into a battlefield where human creativity met alien technology. Admiral Sullivan watched the battle from orbit, her heart swelling with pride as she saw her people refuse to give up. Ships were dying, soldiers were falling, but humanity endured. They bent but did not break. "All ships, continue the attack," she ordered. "Show them that Earth does not kneel." The solar system was being torn apart by war, but Earth remained free. The galaxy was beginning to learn that these humans were unlike any species they had ever faced. The long war had truly begun. Captain Steve Baker knew he was about to die as his ship used Ghost drifted through the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. The stealth systems were failing, and enemy patrol ships were closing in. But death was not what scared him. What scared him was failing in his mission to take the fight to the aliens. "Sir, we're picking up something on the long-range sensors," his communications officer whispered. "It's not one of ours." Baker looked at the display and felt his heart skip. The signal was coming from an alien ship, but it was broadcasting human language. More impossible still, it was asking for help. "This is Commander Amy Foster of the UES Recon 7, the voice said through the static. "Any human vessels in range, please respond. We've made contact with friendly aliens." Baker could not believe what he was hearing. Friendly aliens was not something anyone had expected to find in this war. But stranger things had happened since the fighting began. 3 days later, Baker found himself standing in a hidden base on a moon orbiting a gas giant 20 light-years from Earth. The base was built into the rock itself, invisible from space, and filled with beings that looked nothing like the soldiers who had attacked. "Earth, we are the Zalkari," the tall, blue-skinned leader explained through a translation device. "We were once warriors like you. We fought the Compact for 300 years before they broke us." Commander Foster stood beside Baker, her face grim. "They've been hiding here for decades, waiting for someone to give them hope again, someone to show them that the Compact can be beaten." The Zalkari leader, who called himself Kethrin, gestured to the walls of the cavern. They were covered with symbols and pictures that told the story of a proud species reduced to slave labor. "We built their ships. We mined their metals. We forgot what it meant to be free." "But you remembered," Baker said. "You built this place. You kept some of your people hidden." Kethrin nodded slowly. "We remembered because we could not forget the taste of freedom. When your people began fighting, when news of your resistance reached us, something awakened in our hearts, hope." Over the following weeks, Baker and Foster worked with the Zalkari to establish the first human base outside the solar system. They taught the aliens human fighting tactics while the Zalkari shared their knowledge of compact technology and strategy. "You fight like no species we have ever seen," Kethrin told them. "The compact wins through overwhelming force and perfect order, but you create chaos. you make the impossible happen. Back on Earth, Dr. Paul Rivers was creating his own impossible things. His laboratory had become a place where human creativity met alien technology in ways that should not have worked. His daughter Lisa had become the first human to fly captured alien fighters, her skills as a pilot allowing her to master technology that had been designed for entirely different minds. The aliens think in straight lines, Lisa explained to her. Father, after another successful test flight? Their technology is built for minds that follow rules. But human minds break rules. We find ways to do things they never intended. Dr. Rivers nodded as he watched his daughter climb out of the alien cockpit. We're not just adapting their technology. We're improving it. We're making it better than they ever imagined it could be. The improvements were desperately needed. The Compact had responded to human resistance by sending their elite forces, the Purifiers. These were not the modified slaves that had attacked Earth before. These were the true servants of the Compact's masters, beings of pure hatred who existed only to destroy. The Purifiers were led by something called the Hierarch, an ancient creature that had overseen the conquest of countless worlds. When it arrived at the edge of the solar system, it brought with it weapons that could crack planets and ships that moved faster than light itself. These humans end now, the Hierarch declared to its forces. They have infected the galaxy with their disease of freedom. We will cut out this infection before it spreads. But the infection had already spread. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species were beginning to remember what their ancestors had known. They were remembering that they had once been free. Major Chris Walker led a desperate mission to the Compact's central communication hub, a massive space station that coordinated their forces across the galaxy. His team of special operations soldiers had trained for months for this mission, knowing that success would cripple the enemy's ability to coordinate their attacks. Remember, Walker told his team as they prepared to launch, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every species that ever dreamed of freedom. The mission was a success, but the cost was terrible. Walker and most of his team died in the fighting, their sacrifice ensuring that the Compact's communication network went dark across half the galaxy. For the first time in millions of years, the ordered universe began to crack. The Hierarch felt the network fail and knew that something had changed. These humans were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something far more dangerous. They were fighting for the idea that all beings deserved to be free. The long war had entered a new phase, and the galaxy itself was beginning to choose sides. The rebellion spread across the galaxy like wildfire, igniting hope on worlds that had forgotten what freedom meant. Commander Tony Clark stood on the bridge of the U's Liberation, watching as ships from 12 different species moved in formation around him. 3 months ago, these beings had been enemies or strangers. Now, they were allies united by something the Compact had never expected to face. All ships report ready for jump, his communications officer announced. The mixed fleet of human Zelkari and newly freed alien vessels prepared to attack another Compact stronghold. This is Commander Clark to all ships, Tony spoke into the comm system. Today we liberate the mining world of Korath Prime. Today we show the galaxy that freedom is not just a human dream. The jump to hyperspace felt different now. Where once human ships had traveled alone through the darkness, now they moved with friends who shared their cause. The Zelkari had taught them new ways to navigate between stars, while the humans had shown them how to fight with courage instead of fear. On the recently liberated world of Haven, Dr. Susan White worked in fields that had been barren for centuries. The Compact had strip-mined this planet until nothing would grow, but human agricultural techniques were bringing life back to the dead soil. The key is not to fight the land, she explained to a group of freed alien farmers. The key is to work with it, to help it remember what it was meant to be. The aliens watched in amazement as green shoots pushed through soil that had been poisoned for generations. Dr. White's techniques were based on something the Compact had never understood. She saw the land not as a resource to be consumed, but as a living thing that could be healed. Your species thinks in ways we had forgotten, one of the alien farmers said. You see hope where we saw only death. Dr. White smiled as she knelt beside a young plant. That's what makes us human. We see what could be, not just what is. The success at Haven became a symbol for the growing alliance of free worlds. More species joined every day, bringing their own skills and knowledge to the fight. The Compact's Supreme Council watched in horror as their perfect order dissolved into chaos. The infection spreads faster than we can contain it, one of the council members reported. 17 more worlds have declared independence this cycle. Their fleets are using human tactics that we cannot predict. The hierarch studied the reports with growing concern. In all its millions of years of existence, it had never seen anything like this. Species that had been broken for millennia were suddenly fighting with the fury of the newly awakened. These humans have given them something we took away long ago, the hierarch said to the council. They have given them the belief that they can win. The belief was spreading to places the Compact had thought secure. Admiral Kevin Torres commanded the Alliance fleet in the Battle of the Spiral Arms, where human strategies proved that mobility and creativity could overcome brute force. The victory liberated 3 entire star systems and showed the galaxy that the Compact could be defeated. We're not just winning battles, Torres reported to Alliance Command. We're winning hearts and minds. Every victory brings more species to our cause. The Compact tried to respond with overwhelming force, sending their largest fleet to crush the rebellion. But the Alliance had learned from human example. They did not meet force with force. Instead, they scattered across the galaxy, striking at 100 targets simultaneously. Young engineer Rachel Stone was working on captured Compact technology when she made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the alien computer systems, she found records that went back millions of years. The history they told was not what anyone expected. The Compact isn't the real enemy, she announced to the Alliance leadership. They're just servants. The real rulers are called the Primarchs, and they've been sleeping for over 1 million years. The records showed that the Primarchs were not even from this galaxy. They had come from somewhere else, conquered everything in their path, and then gone into hibernation to wait for something. The Compact had been left to maintain order until their masters awakened. They're waiting for the galaxy to be ready, Rachel explained. Ready for what? I don't know. But our rebellion has triggered something. The hibernation systems are beginning to wake up. The news sent shockwaves through the Alliance. They had thought they were fighting to free the galaxy from the Compact. Now they learned that the Compact was just the beginning. The real enemy was something far older and more powerful than anyone had imagined, but the humans did not despair. They had faced impossible odds before and found a way to win. They had taught the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for, and now that lesson was spreading faster than their enemies could contain it. The awakening of the Primarchs would bring new challenges, but it would also bring new opportunities. The galaxy had learned to fight, and it would not surrender its freedom without a battle that would shake the stars themselves. The Long War was about to enter its final phase, and humanity had given the galaxy something it had never possessed before: hope. The first Primarch ship emerged from its million-year slumber like a nightmare made real. General Frank Davis watched from the command center on Earth as the massive vessel materialized in empty space, its hull stretching for thousands of kilometers. The technology readings were beyond anything the Alliance had ever encountered. It's the size of a moon, his aide whispered, staring at the display screen. How do we fight something like that? Before Davis could answer, the Primarch ship demonstrated its power. A beam of pure energy reached out across space and touched a nearby star. The star flickered once, then died, leaving an entire solar system in darkness. My God, Davis breathed. They can kill stars. The awakening continued across the galaxy as more Primarch vessels emerged from their hidden hibernation sites. Each one was a masterpiece of technology that made the Compact's ships look like toys. They moved without regard for physics, traveling faster than light without hyperspace drives, bending reality around them like clay. Dr. Gary Morgan worked frantically with Alliance scientists to understand the enemy's capabilities. The Primarch technology was based on principles that human science had not even imagined. They could manipulate matter at the atomic level, reshape space itself, and command energies that rivaled the birth of stars. They're not just advanced, Morgan reported to the Alliance Council. They're operating on a completely different level of existence. They see the universe as we see a garden, something to be shaped according to their will. The truth about the Primarch's origin became clear as more of their records were decoded. They had come from outside the galaxy millions of years ago, fleeing something that had destroyed their home. They had conquered this galaxy not out of evil, but out of a twisted desire to create perfect order. They believe chaos leads to destruction, Morgan explained. They've spent millions of years removing free will from every species they encounter. They think they're saving the galaxy from itself. The revelation explained everything about the Compact. The 12 species that served as the galaxy's rulers were not evil conquerors. They were the Primarch's greatest victims, genetically modified over millions of years to be perfect servants. Their capacity for independent thought had been slowly bred out of them until they existed only to maintain order. Captain Julie Adams led a desperate mission into the heart of Primarch space to find the control systems that maintained this genetic slavery. Her team of volunteers knew it was a suicide mission, but they also knew it was the only chance to free the galaxy's enslaved minds. Remember, Adams told her team as they prepared to launch, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every being that ever dreamed of freedom. The mission took them through defenses that could have shattered planets. Primarch technology turned space itself into a weapon, creating gravity wells that could crush ships and energy fields that could tear apart matter. But human ingenuity found ways through the impossible. Adams and her team reached the Central Control Complex, a structure that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. At its heart was a device that broadcast the genetic control signals across the galaxy. Her team's sacrifice allowed Dr. Morgan to send a counter-signal that began reversing millions of years of genetic modification. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Across the galaxy, compact forces suddenly remembered who they had been before the Primarch's modifications. Some wept as they recalled forgotten cultures and lost freedoms. Others screamed with rage as they realized what had been stolen from them. We are not your servants, the Compact Admiral Zephyros declared as he turned his fleet against the Primarch forces. We are the Kovani and we choose to be free. The galaxy exploded into chaos as billions of beings suddenly remembered their true names and histories. The careful order that the Primarchs had maintained for millions of years collapsed in a matter of hours. Some species joined the Alliance, others sought revenge against their former masters, and many simply tried to find their own path to freedom. The Primarchs responded with genocidal fury. They had spent millions of years preparing the galaxy for some unknown threat, and now their work was being undone by creatures they considered inferior. Entire solar systems were sterilized as the ancient beings tried to restore order through pure destruction. If we cannot have perfect order, the Primarch Emperor declared, then we will have perfect silence. The ancient beings began activating their ultimate weapon, a device built at the galaxy's core that could sterilize every world simultaneously. The weapon, called the Silence, would end all life in the galaxy rather than allow chaos to spread, but the Primarchs had underestimated what they faced. The galaxy was no longer a collection of isolated, enslaved species. It was a united force led by beings who understood that freedom was worth any sacrifice. The final battle was about to begin, and for the first time in millions of years, the outcome was not certain. The final battle began at the galaxy's core, where the Primarchs had built their ultimate weapon among the swirling energies of the central black hole. Admiral Bill Carter commanded the largest fleet in galactic history as ships from 100 species converged on the massive structure known as the Silence. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. He spoke into the CUM system that connected every vessel in the Alliance. Today we end this war. Today we choose freedom over fear. The Silence was a weapon beyond imagination, a structure the size of a solar system that could reach every planet in the galaxy simultaneously. Energy readings showed it was already beginning to charge, drawing power from the black hole itself to fuel the destruction of all life. Dr. Ellen Hughes worked desperately. Aboard the command ship, her computers analyzing the alien weapons design. Her brother Colonel Matt Hughes led the Marine assault teams that would have to fight their way into the structure to stop it from firing. The weapon is based on quantum resonance, Ellen reported to the fleet commanders. It's designed to disrupt the basic forces that hold matter together. When it fires, every atom in the galaxy will simply stop existing. How long do we have? Admiral Carter asked. Ellen's face was grim as she checked her calculations. 6 hours until full charge. After that, nothing can stop it. The assault began with waves of fighters diving into the weapon's defensive systems. Primarch technology turned space itself into a maze of death, but the Alliance pilots had learned from human example. They did not fly in formation or follow predictable patterns. They moved like swarms of angry insects, impossible to track or counter. Colonel Hughes led his Marines through corridors that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Primarchs had built their weapon using technology that human minds could barely comprehend, but humans had something the ancient beings lacked. They had the ability to adapt to the impossible. The weapon's core is protected by quantum barriers, Hughes reported as his team fought through defenses that could reshape reality. We need to find another way in. The answer came from an unexpected source. The freed compact species, led by Admiral Zephyros, had knowledge of Primarch technology that even the humans lacked. They knew how to navigate the quantum mazes because they had been forced to build them. There is a path, Zephyros explained over the comm, a maintenance tunnel that the Primarchs use to service the weapon. It requires perfect timing and absolute trust. The plan was insane, but it was the only chance they had. Ships from dozens of species would have to work together with perfect coordination, each playing a specific role in a dance of destruction that would either save the galaxy or doom it forever. As the assault continued, Dr. Hughes made a discovery that changed everything. The weapon was not just designed to kill. It was designed to create something new, to reshape the galaxy according to the Primarch's vision of perfect order. They're not trying to destroy the galaxy, she announced. They're trying to remake it. The silence will kill all existing life, but it will also create new life that serves only them. The revelation came with another shock. The Primarchs were not the galaxy's original inhabitants. They were refugees from another galaxy, one that had been consumed by something even worse than themselves. They had come here to prepare for the arrival of that greater threat. They call it the Void, Ellen explained as she decoded more Primarch records. It devours entire galaxies, leaving nothing behind. The Primarchs believe only perfect order can resist it. President John Baker, who had traveled to the battle aboard the command ship, made a decision that would echo through history. Instead of simply destroying the weapon, he ordered a direct communication link to be established with the Primarch Emperor. You're wrong, Baker told the ancient being whose voice had not been heard by lesser species for millions of years. Order without freedom is not strength, it's weakness. You've spent so long trying to create perfect servants that you've forgotten what makes life worth defending. The Primarch Emperor's response was filled with contempt. You are children playing with forces beyond your understanding. The void comes whether you accept our protection or not. Then let it come, Baker replied. We'll face it as free beings, not as slaves. And we'll find a way to win because that's what free beings do. The battle reached its climax as human ingenuity combined with alien knowledge to create something the Primarchs had never expected. The quantum barriers protecting the weapon's core were breached not by force, but by a network of minds working in perfect harmony. The galaxy's diverse species had learned to think as one while remaining free, creating a psychic bond that overloaded the Primarch control systems. The ancient beings who had spent millions of years alone in their perfection could not comprehend the power of unity without slavery. The silence was destroyed, but the victory came with a price. The Primarchs, faced with their first true defeat, chose exile over surrender. They departed for the void between galaxies, warning that the greater threat would come whether they were there to face it or not. The long war was over, but President Carter knew it was only the beginning. The galaxy had learned to stand together, and when the true test came, they would be ready. The Galactic Republic was born not from conquest but from choice, guided by the simple human belief that freedom was worth any price. The stars shone brighter, knowing that every world beneath them was free,